Formula One is getting ready to make lots of changes in the 2025 season, and it really looks like we're going to have a super exciting season with all these changes. Plus, the people in charge decided to change some of the 2026 rules, to which shows that Formula One keeps growing and changing to make sure new ideas come first in the competition. But with all these changes, can the teams get ready in time? And if not, will they fall behind compared to others who can handle it better? The FIA showed a bunch of changes for the 2025 season, and two of the biggest ones are about keeping drivers cool and how they use the DRS. The latest meeting that happened in Rwanda included the expected addition of driver cooling marked by a new danger rule when race temperatures go over certain levels, plus the stricter rules about using the drag reduction system, or DRS for short, have also shown that the FIA wants to make the sport better and make sure teams will always be working on new ideas. Starting in 2025, the new rules say that when the official weather computers of the people in charge predict a temperature over 35 degrees, or when called by the race director before a racing event, a heat danger will be announced. What this would let the teams do is give the drivers their cooling systems, and because of this adding weight to the car, the minimum weight limit will be raised by an extra 5 kilograms for the whole weekend. Like I said earlier in the video, the DRS will see some changes happening too, as the slot gaps for the rear wing between the two modes of the system have been changed. The minimum gap was made smaller, probably to stop any tries to create tricks in the rulebook, like the mini DRS trick by McLaren, one that helped Piastri defend for so long against Leclerc on the main straight, as it removed drag from the car while giving DRS for the attacking SF24 behind him. Of course, if you were to look at videos of how the rear slot opened just a little on the straights when loaded with high speeds, you would understand why these rules have been put in place and why the FIA waited until the season before this situation was put in place. So the minimum gap got smaller from 10 to 15 millimeters to 9 for 13 millimeters, and with the DRS open, the upper limit stays at 85 millimeters. On top of that, the FIA played around with the DRS modes, saying that there must be only 2 positions and that the ending of using DRS must return the wing exactly as described to the starting mode. Now, all of this should affect McLaren a lot, because they are the team that have been accused of driving an illegal car for most of the season, even though there isn't much proof of it except for the Baku GP. And even without that, the team won easily on the high downforce tracks like Zandvoort and Singapore, where they won with big gaps by 20 seconds ahead of the second driver. Whether or not these changes will hurt the Woking-based team, time will tell. But what is also very interesting is to see how much interest the teams will show when it comes to the 2025 car. This is the last year before we go into a new set of rules, and when this happens, we're likely to have teams giving up much earlier than planned to focus on the new era. But now that the grid really has 4 teams that could fight for race wins and championships, the big question comes up: are you going to spend money on 2025, or are you going to give up on this chance and make sure that you start 2026 on the right foot? What you must remember is that the earlier you start working on the 2026 cars, the more advantage you'll have compared to the rest of the grid. And thinking that the next change will come around 2030, this advantage could be very important for the championship fights. This has been talked about by different team bosses on the grid, who all agreed on one thing: it all depends on where your team is. Fred Vasseur, the team boss of Ferrari, said that if you are a team like Aston Martin, who has so much time to spend in the wind tunnel, or Alpine, it would be much smarter to focus on 2026, because the rules are very strict and there is zero to no hope for them to find big improvements to compete for race wins and podiums. Explaining more about this, Vasseur said, "We as teams are not all in the same situation. I think if you're Alpine or Aston Martin, then you probably have more temptation to go for the new regulations. Also, you have more wind tunnel time, so it means that you can probably go in this direction if you are one team of the top 4 today. You carry over the car, and you know that you will be in the fight for next year, so it's hard to give up a championship. Plus, if you know that you didn't do your best, it is harsh even for everybody in the team." And this comes from a man who admitted that the 2025 car of his team is going to be 99% different and will only keep 1% of what we used to see. So with such a brave move from Vasseur and Ferrari, as well as the arrival of some big names in the team such as Hamilton and Loic Serra, Ferrari will have a lot to deliver and huge ground to cover in the upcoming time. The question is whether they will be able to do it under this pressure that they are feeling, and whether it would take a personal toll on the chemistry between the drivers. However, if you were to ask the technical director of engineers from Aston Martin, Neil Hoey, the chance of winning a championship in 2025 is not impossible for them, because there is still a lot of wiggle room that the teams can find under the current set of rules. The changes that the FIA has put in place are only helping the teams from the back, because they are the ones pushing towards improvements. And decisions like this from the people in charge could turn out to be very important for their development when talking about it. Neil said, "I think there is a chance to win a championship in 2025. There is of course a chance to win a championship in 2026, and we want to do both. But there is the competition of Red Bull. Mercedes is going to have a fast car. You've got Ferrari, who are fast. There is no reason why these teams aren't going to be making a lot of performance the next season, and we've got to be there and be doing the same. if we want to win a championship. And what we must not forget is that 2026 is also going through some huge changes. For example, the active aero department that has been talked about for a long time is one of these things that will go through big changes. The active aero rules now fully say that there may be two affected flaps on the front wing which are required to enter two different modes, one for cornering and one for straight line use. What you already know by far is that the car needs different downforce levels when facing these two challenges on the track, and the active aero is going to help the drivers make these levels perfect to get the maximum performance out of the car. But the last change means that there will be physical stops to stop the wing parts from rotating more than the required amount. The FIA's pictures that were released earlier also show that small winglets can now be applied to the outside of the front wing end plates, which is also a small but helpful change for the newly ruled era. Apart from the front wing, the rear wing has also seen some changes as well. The previous rules said that teams must use 3 elements to form the rear wing, and now this has been changed to up to 3, which allows the 2-element rear wing to remain. What this has also done is change the active aerodynamic rules to fit both 2 and 3-element wings, where all except the bottom main plane element can be rotated. But this is not all. The scope of the floor has been opened. A floor sidewall has been detailed along with winglet and fence bodywork to overall increase the downforce generated by the new design. The bodywork around the wheels has seen some changes as well, with deflectors and a debris guard added to the rules. So all, in the name of new ideas, the sport is never stopping to try and get the maximum out of the team's engineers' minds. The most important thing to take from all of this is what's waiting for us in 2025. It's going to be hugely changed by the changes of the FIA, and with teams now pushing for small improvements, these changes could either help them a lot or just knock them into deeper trouble when it comes to unlocking these pieces of performance. With such a tight grid and with up to 4 teams now being able to fight for the championship in both categories, do you think that the latest changes for 2025 are going to affect the sport in a good way? And more importantly, do you think that there are certain teams who are going to suffer more than others? Let us know in the comments below. And if you're interested in Max's latest statement about his father Joe's being a destabilizing figure in the sport, make sure to check out the video appearing on your screen right now.